The afternoon sun poured through the open glass doors of the sprawling colonial-style house in Willow Creek, California. Marcus Thompson stood frozen on the threshold, one hand gripping the strap of his worn olive-green duffel bag, the other hanging loose at his side. His dark brown eyes, usually calm and steady, flickered with something close to defeat. Behind him, the manicured backyard stretched out like a postcard. Green lawn, blooming roses, and the distant hum of a sprinkler. Inside, 4 of the 5 Harrington sisters stared at him like he'd just announced the end of the world. 12-year-old Ava sat on the edge of the gray couch in her yellow t-shirt. One hand clapped over her mouth, eyes wide with shock. Next to her, 14-year-old Bella leaned forward, palms open in desperate gestures, her own yellow shirt rumpled from pacing. 8-year-old Chloe clutched her teddy bear so tight her knuckles were white, her pink shirt stained with a single tear that had already fallen. And 16-year-old Daisy stood by the door handle in her white sundress, lips pressed together, trying so hard not to cry that her chin trembled.
"You can't leave, Marcus," Ava whispered, voice cracking. "Please, we'll be good. We swear."
Marcus let out a slow breath. 6 months ago, he never would have believed he'd be standing here, heart twisting at the sight of these 4 blonde, privileged girls begging him to stay. He was the nanny they weren't supposed to keep. The black single dad from the other side of town who was only supposed to last 2 weeks like everyone else. But here he was. And he almost walked out anyway. It had started the way every other nanny story started in the Harrington house. Chaos. The Harrington sisters weren't evil. They were just lost. Their parents, tech mogul Richard Harrington and his influencer-turned-CEO wife Vanessa, were ghosts. Private jets to Tokyo, board meetings in New York, charity galas in Malibu. The girls had a mansion, a credit card with no limit, and 0 actual parents, so they turned the house into their personal battlefield. 17 nannies in 3 years. Some lasted a weekend. One made it 10 days before the girls replaced all her shampoo with blue food coloring and locked her out in the rain. The agency had warned Marcus on the day he interviewed. "They're not monsters, Mr. Thompson. They're just creative and rich, very rich." The woman had slid the contract across the desk like it was radioactive. "Live-in position, 6 figures plus bonuses if you make it 90 days. But nobody ever does." Marcus had laughed, a low, tired sound. He needed the money, badly. His wife Lena had passed from cancer 2 years earlier. Their son Jamal was a freshman at UC Berkeley on a partial scholarship. But the rest of the tuition, books, and dorm fees landed squarely on Marcus's shoulders. He'd been driving for Uber, fixing engines at a garage, and sleeping 4 hours a night. The Harrington job was a miracle. Room, board, and enough cash to get Jamal through college without debt. So he said yes. The first week was war. The girls tested him like scientists with a new lab rat. Bella accidentally spilled an entire gallon of orange juice across his bed. Ava replaced his work boots with a pair 2 sizes too small. Chloe, the youngest, followed him around whispering made-up ghost stories about the attic, until he found her hiding his phone charger in the laundry chute. Daisy, the oldest, simply ignored him, earbuds in, eyes glued to TikTok, acting like he was furniture. Marcus didn't yell. He didn't quit. He just stayed. He started small. Every morning he made breakfast. Real breakfast. Pancakes with blueberries, scrambled eggs with cheese the way his grandma used to make them. Fresh fruit cut into smiley faces for Chloe. The first time he set the plates down, the girls stared like he'd served them poison. "You don't have to do this," Daisy muttered, arms crossed. "I know," Marcus said quietly, pouring orange juice. "I want to." By week 3, the prank slowed. Bella started sitting at the counter instead of hiding in her room. She asked him, voice small, how to fix the carburetor on her scooter. Marcus spent 2 hours in the garage with her, grease on his hands, teaching her the difference between a wrench and a socket. For the first time in months, she laughed, actually laughed, when the engine sputtered to life. Ava, the dramatic one, broke down one night after a fight with her mom over FaceTime. "She doesn't even remember my soccer schedule," Ava sobbed into a pillow. Marcus sat on the floor beside her bed until 2 a.m. listening. Then he showed up at every game after that, cheering louder than any other parent in the bleachers. When Ava scored the winning goal against their rival school, she ran straight to him instead of her teammates. Chloe started calling him Mr. Bear Protector after he rescued her teddy from the roof where the wind had blown it. He carried her on his shoulders to the attic, fixed the loose shingle, and told her stories about growing up in South Central LA, real stories about riding bikes until the streetlights came on and sharing one popsicle between 3 cousins. Chloe fell asleep that night holding his hand. Even Daisy cracked. She came home from a party smelling like weed and cheap vodka at 1 a.m. Marcus was waiting on the porch, not angry, just there. He didn't lecture. He made her hot chocolate and said, "I lost my mom when I was your age. Felt like the whole world forgot me. I get it." Daisy cried for 20 minutes straight. The next day she deleted her secret Instagram account and asked him to help her study for her SATs. The parents noticed, sort of. Richard sent a text, "Girls seem calmer, keep it up." Vanessa posted a photo of the 5 of them at the kitchen table with the caption, "Blessed to have help," but never actually came home. Marcus didn't care about the likes. He cared about the way the house felt different now. Music playing in the kitchen, homework spread across the dining table, the girls fighting over who got to sit next to him at dinner. Then came the fight. Last night everything exploded. Vanessa had flown in for 12 hours between meetings. She took one look at the girls laughing with Marcus over homemade lasagna and lost it. "This isn't your family, Mr. Thompson," she snapped in the foyer where no one could hear. "Your staff, I pay you to watch them, not replace us." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm not trying to replace anybody, but somebody needs to show up for them." Vanessa wrote him a check for 3 months severance and told him to be gone by noon. He had packed quietly. He wasn't going to fight a woman who could buy his entire block. But the girls had found the duffel bag on his bed, and now here they were, standing in the exact scene from the thumbnail. Sunlight streaming in, fear in their eyes, begging him not to become number 18. Chloe's voice broke first. "If you go, I'm gonna be all alone again. Mommy and Daddy never come home. You make the monsters go away." Bella wiped her face. "I fixed the scooter because of you. I got an A on my history paper. I don't want to go back to being the girl who scares everybody off." Ava stood up, hands shaking. "You said family isn't always blood. You said that. Was that a lie?" Daisy stepped forward, still holding the door handle like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I told my friends you're my dad, not because I'm embarrassed of my real one, because you actually show up. Please don't make me take that back." Marcus felt the bag slip from his shoulder. It hit the hardwood floor with a soft thud. He looked at each of them, the 4 faces in front of him and the 5th 10-year-old Emily, who had just run in from the kitchen holding a plate of half-burnt cookies she'd tried to bake for him as a goodbye present. 5 girls, 5 broken hearts trying so hard to be tough. He thought about Jamal back at Berkeley texting him every night, "You good, Pops? Need anything?" He thought about the empty house he'd go back to, the silence, the way money couldn't fix loneliness. He thought about the way these girls had started calling him Uncle Marcus when they thought he couldn't hear. Marcus Thompson, the black single dad who was never supposed to last, dropped to one knee right there on the sunlit floor. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, voice thick. "Not unless you want me to, but we're doing this different from now on. No more tests, no more games. We talk, we fight fair, and when your parents come home, if they come home, we tell them the truth. This house needs all of us." Tidal wave. Chloe buried her face in his jacket. Ava and Bella wrapped their arms around his neck. Daisy rested her forehead on his shoulder, whispering, "Thank you." Emily shoved the burnt cookies into his hand, laughing through tears. That afternoon they didn't pack his bag. They unpacked it together. Marcus taught them how to make his grandma's sweet potato pie while music blasted from the kitchen speaker. Bella helped Chloe with her spelling words. Ava and Daisy argued over playlist choices, but ended up dancing anyway. 2 weeks later, Richard and Vanessa came home for the first time in months. They walked into a house that smelled like dinner and sounded like laughter. The girls were at the table doing homework, actual homework, while Marcus stirred sauce at the stove. Vanessa opened her mouth to speak, but Daisy cut her off. "Mom, Dad, Marcus isn't leaving, ever. He's family now. And if you fire him, we're all going with him." Richard stared. Then something in his face softened. The first real emotion Marcus had seen from the man. He looked at his daughters, really looked, and saw the change, the light in their eyes, the way they sat taller, the way they weren't scared anymore. "We're not firing anybody," Richard said quietly. "We're adjusting the contract, full-time, permanent, and maybe we'll be home more." Marcus didn't say anything dramatic. He just nodded, turned back to the stove, and said, "Dinner's in 20. Hope you like lasagna." The girls helped. That night, after the parents went upstairs, actually upstairs, not to the airport, Marcus sat on the back porch with a cup of coffee. The glass doors were open. 5 girls spilled out onto the lawn with flashlights, catching fireflies and laughing like they'd never been spoiled or scared or alone. Chloe ran up and climbed into his lap without asking. "You stayed," she whispered. Marcus kissed the top of her head. "Yeah, baby girl. I stayed because sometimes the person who walks through the door isn't the one you expected. Sometimes the nanny isn't a nanny at all. Sometimes it's a single dad from the other side of town who needed them just as much as they needed him, and in the end, that was the reason he never left." The 5 rich sisters didn't drive him away. They gave him a family, and he gave them a father